Emma had always been the type of woman who followed the rules. Fresh out of college, she met Jason, the man her parents adored, the man who checked every box. They married in a picturesque ceremony only 6 months ago, and by all accounts, she should have been happy. Jason was stable, dependable, and always kind. But there was a hollowness to their relationship, a spark that never seemed to ignite, a thrill that remained elusive. Then came Aiden. He was new at the marketing firm where Emma worked, a transfer from the New York office. Tall, confident, with dark eyes that seemed to see through her, Aiden exuded a charm that was impossible to ignore. His easy smile and sharp wit quickly made him the center of attention, and Emma wasn't immune. It started innocently, an exchange of ideas during meetings, a few jokes over coffee breaks. But Emma could feel it, the tension simmering beneath their every interaction. She caught him looking at her a moment too long, his gaze lingering on the curve of her neck or the way she absent-mindedly twisted her wedding band. At first, she convinced herself it was harmless. She was flattered, nothing more. But every time he walked into the room, her heart quickened, her palms grew damp, and she found herself anticipating their fleeting moments together. One evening, after a grueling day, Emma stayed late to finish a presentation. The office was quiet, the hum of the air conditioner the only sound. She didn't notice Aiden until he appeared in the doorway, a mischievous grin on his face. "Burning the midnight oil?" he teased, leaning casually against the frame. She smiled, though her heart raced. "Trying to impress the boss. What's your excuse?" He held up a file. "Client emergency. But I couldn't leave without saying hi." Her cheeks flushed, and she turned back to her screen. "Well, hi. Now you can leave guilt-free." But he didn't leave. Instead, he stepped into the room, the scent of his cologne warm and woodsy, filling the space. "Emma," he said softly, his voice taking on a new tone. "Do you ever get tired of playing by the rules?" She froze, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. When she looked up, his dark eyes were locked onto hers, filled with a heat that made her pulse race. "Aiden," she began, but he cut her off. "Tell me you don't feel it. This thing between us." Her breath caught. She should have denied it, laughed it off, but the words wouldn't come. Because she did feel it, an undeniable pull, a hunger that made her chest ache. "It doesn't matter what I feel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm married." He stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers as he leaned on the desk. The contact sent a shiver through her. "Sometimes," he said, his voice low, "you have to take what you want, what you need." Before she could stop herself, her eyes flicked to his lips, full and tempting. The air between them seemed to crackle, and she felt herself leaning in, her body betraying her better judgment. The kiss was inevitable. When their lips met, it was electric, an explosion of passion and pent-up desire. His hands found her waist, pulling her against him, and for a moment, nothing else mattered. Not her vows, not the ring on her finger, not the life waiting for her at home. As they broke apart, Emma's chest heaved, her mind racing with a mix of guilt and exhilaration. She stepped back, her lips tingling from the kiss. "I can't," she stammered, though the words sounded hollow even to her. Aiden didn't move, his dark eyes still locked onto hers. "You can," he said simply, his voice calm but firm. "You just don't want to admit it." His confidence was maddening, but it was also intoxicating. She wanted to push him away, to walk out of the office and pretend this never happened. Instead, she stayed rooted in place, her body aching for him in a way that both thrilled and terrified her. The following days at work were a blur. Every interaction with Aiden was charged with unspoken tension. He would brush past her in the hallway, his hand grazing hers just enough to send a jolt through her. His eyes would meet hers during meetings, holding her gaze a second too long, making her heart pound in her chest. One evening, unable to bear the tension any longer, she texted him, "Emma, we need to talk." "Aiden, my place or yours?" She stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. "Emma, this isn't a game." "Aiden, I never said it was." She didn't reply, but 30 minutes later, she found herself standing outside his apartment. The door opened before she had the chance to knock. Aiden stood there, his shirt unbuttoned, his gaze steady and inviting. "You didn't have to come," he said, though his tone suggested he'd known she would. "I shouldn't be here," she murmured, but even as she spoke, her feet carried her inside. The door closed behind her, and in that moment, Emma let go. She let go of the guilt, the expectations, the rules she had lived by her entire life. All that mattered was the way Aiden looked at her, the way his hands felt on her skin, the way he made her feel alive in a way she never had before. The night was a blur of passion and surrender, of stolen kisses and whispered confessions. But as dawn broke and she lay tangled in Aiden's sheets, reality began to creep back in. What had she done? What would come next? For now, Emma didn't have the answers. All she knew was that she was no longer the same woman who had walked into his apartment the night before.